not necessarily spiritually related, but at the end of the day, his dad felt necessary to gather us all together and say a prayer before we headed on our way and ask individual blessings on each of us. And that I wanted to be that kind of dad that would constantly bring my kids back into focus on what was important at the end of the day. One that is particularly important to me was that some point during high school they were getting some new bedding in their house. And my name's Matt, and his dad, just out of the blue, President Nelson, decided to call me Brother Matt Tress because they were getting a mattress. I don't know why that ever came up, but it just popped. He did it like once or twice. And then it just stuck. And from then on, all of my friends, even to this day, they address me as Tress, Brother Tress. And it's one of those things that, happens and then it sticks and nobody knows why it kind of stuck, but it just rolls on. But it reminded me of the fact that it was always fun to be around President Nelson because he came up with funny, goofy things that teenage boys thought were funny and goofy, and we really clicked with. And that was one of those things that even to this day, when I'm 45 years old, all the friends in that circle still identify me by that name. Another great experience I had was our junior year in high school. It was our first date, our first prom, and it was homecoming time. And we were all deciding what we wanted to do to really impress our dates. We didn't have a lot of money, so we decided we're going to get somebody's house. And once again, Nelson's had a big house with, all this infrastructure for lots of kids. So they volunteered to let us eat at their house for dinner. So after the football game, we'd all go over to their house, and we were like, can we help out? And Sister Nelson's like, no, I got it. We're all covered. So we went home, got dressed up, got clean, got our dates, came back, and his dad was waiting at the front door in a tuxedo, dressed up like a butler, greeting us as we came in the house. And then he had us sit down in their front room and talk, and he brought us hors d'oeuvres on a nice tray. And then he later went and seated us in the dining room, and he served us our food. And then when we started eating, he went to their front room, which had an organ in the house, and he started playing dinner music for us on the organ, which is interesting because I later asked Russ about that, and he said that his dad had self-taught himself how to play the organ in his 40s because he wanted to know how. So it was one of those times that all involved just remembered as such a great, fun evening. What I remembered the most that I take away was how much fun President Nelson and his wife had that evening. They were just beaming ear to ear, being around young people, serving them, helping them, just making for an enjoyable evening. And I'll always remember, whenever I think about that, I relate to a talk he gave 3 conferences ago in October, where he talked about the importance of having joy in life and always seeking joy. And I just remember that night how much fun he and his wife had catering to the needs of a bunch of high school juniors in finding joy in life. The next story that I have is when I got my mission call. I was home for the weekend, and for some reason my bishop forgot to put our home address on my mission papers. So they went to my dorm at Utah State University. And I was kind of disappointed. I finally got home to the dorm, and I got the call there. So I had to open it, and I called my mom and dad, opened it up while they're on the phone, and I read, I'm going to serve in the Hungary Budapest mission. So they were all excited. We were all thrilled. So then I called another friend of mine, the Boydens, after that, and then I called the Nelsons. And President Nelson said he was so excited, he was thrilled, and then he taught me my first Hungarian words. Just like that. And I was amazed that he knew Hungarian words, because there's only about 10, it's probably one of the most useless languages in the world. There's only about 10 million people who speak it. But he knew some Hungarian. And what sticks out with me is every time after that point that I ever met him, he would always greet me with Hungarian greetings. And I found that he does that for about 15 different languages for people. And he knows that if they went on a mission someplace, he knows how to greet them, say hello, say goodbye in a small piece of conversation. And what I took away from that is to learn something about people's cultures and their tongues, their languages. If you do, people will not only be impressed, but they'll feel a special kinship with you. And they'll feel like you took the time to care about something that is deeply important to them. I'm just always impressed by that. The last story that I wanted to share, which is kind of, it's not a story that actually happened to me. It's one of the friends in our group. This is about, I always recognized that President Nelson, whenever we were together, he always had small portions when he ate. He drank lots of water. He just always seemed to take good care of himself. Not just obey the word of wisdom, but go that extra mile on treating his body like a temple. And for those of you who watched the press conference, you might know he's 93, and he still skis about 10 to 15 times a year with his grandkids. And he doesn't go on the small little kiddie slopes. He doesn't do the Black Diamonds, but it's somewhere in between. Amazing for a guy that's 93. I was talking, when I was in high school, he was 65, and he was still water skiing, slaloming all the time. So he has amazing health, and he takes great care of himself. One of my friends, when he became president of the Quorum of the 12, was still living, he bought a house in the ward that President Nelson was in. And the state president got together with some priesthood brethren and said, look, we've got a problem on our hands. President Nelson's now the president of the Quorum of the 12, and he's still plowing his walks all the time when it snows in the winter. We can't have him get a heart attack while he's plowing the walks on our watch. So who's going to take on the responsibility to plow the walks outside his house? So my friend, Jim, said, well, he'd volunteer. He lived across the street, and they lived in a circle. But he found out not only was President Nelson plowing his walks whenever it snowed, and you know Salt Lake winters can have a lot of snow and it gets pretty deep, but President Nelson was plowing like all the neighbors' walks as well. So Jim, snowfall, it's snowing that night. He sets his alarm for about 6:30 in the morning, gets up, all the walks are done. So Jim says, okay, I got to get serious here. He sets his alarm clock for like 5:45 the next time it snows. And he gets up, he gets out, and President Nelson's already got like about half the street done. And he's 90 years old at this point. So my friend Jim hurries and fires up his plow, starts moving double time, plowing, he's getting it done. They're on opposite sides of the streets, and they kind of look at each other every now and then, right? Like, okay, we're on a race here. Jim gets some of his done, but because President Nelson's got a cul-de-sac, I guess, is what Jim was saying, he switched over, he comes, and they finally got him done, and they met. They met on a sidewalk. And they both turned their plows off, and President Nelson, who knows Jim from growing up there, goes, Jim, how are you? And Jim, who's a really funny guy, says, I got to be honest, President, I'm not well. He goes, well, what's wrong? He goes, well, I've been assigned a priesthood duty to ensure that you don't have to get up and do the walks every morning, and quite frankly, you're making it very hard on me. And I was promised some blessings if I did this, and I feel like you're denying me blessings, President. So President Nelson laughs, and he says, Jim, at this age, there's not much I'm good at. This is one of those things. So can you give it to me? And he said, I promise you, Jim, you will receive all the blessings you have coming to you if you let me do this. Jim, a couple weeks later, got his finger caught in the snowplow, and his calling at that point ended to challenge. And the last I heard from Jim is that they'd given up trying to beat President Nelson on the snowplow in his streets. But I take away from that lesson a couple things. One, our prophet has an incredible sense of humor to be able to think that quickly on the fly. But number two is that during the course of his life, he took such care to look after his physical health and his body that still at such an advanced age, he can do stuff like wake up early and plow his and all the neighbors' sidewalks and go skiing with his grandchildren. And as President Oaks said in the press conference, he never uses the elevator in the temple. He goes all the way up the stairs to the top floor and all the way down the stairs to the bottom floor, even to this day. I hope that some of you gain some humanity or some insight to our president from these experiences that I've shared with you. I've only seen President Nelson twice in the last 15 years or so. I took my daughters last summer because I figured he was not yet called to be president of the church, and that might be the last chance I'd ever get to see him because of his schedule. So they got to meet him last summer. He's a wonderful, wonderful person, not just as a prophet, but as a father and as a mentor. And now I think as president of the church, we are in great hands, and I'm glad to see him as president of the church. I'm very grateful for my membership in this church. I'm grateful for my membership in this ward. It's a wonderful ward to be a part of. And I'm grateful for all the blessings I've been given. These things I say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.